I'd like to call License Committee to order at 6:40. I just have one motion this evening from the docket of February 16th, 2021. I move to approve the application to waive section 11-15.1 to serve alcoholic beverages or wine on city property for a private party at the zoo requested by Adam Semple. Ty, you muted. Are you somebody seconding me?
Second.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? So they are going to require a detail. I spoke to the chief, and they're gonna deal with the detail, through the police department. The only thing that we're voting on tonight is whether or not we'll allow alcoholic beverages. Does anybody on my committee before Rick have a question or anything?
Not yet. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, Rick.
Councilor Dolan,
sorry.
I read all the material, but I don't remember seeing how much the zoo is being compensated for the program.
How much the park? So let's see. 6 hours, 4 staff, $50 an hour. Base rentals $1,200. I think it looks like it's $7 per guest. Total guest cost $2,100. Rental fee $3,300. You don't have this paperwork, no?
I read everything, but I don't recall seeing a breakdown of what the zoo is being complicated. It sounds like it's in excess of $5,000.
Yes.
Okay.
And then they'll have to, obviously the police detail will be separate.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions before we vote?
Well, Laura, did you have any issues of your own when you started looking into it? What did you find you learned?
No, well, I mean, I know Councilor DeSimone felt we should update the application. And I think that's a good thing to do. I think we need to have a checklist to make sure everybody's in line, because on the use of grounds permit, it says this permit should be presented to any police officer upon demand and may be revoked immediately by the chief of police. Oh wait, that's not the line I wanted to read. That says payment to the city of Attleboro, care of the police department, if a detail may be required. So I think there's some wording and some checklists that we checked in with fire, police, and make sure everybody's ducks are in a row, because technically the council's just voting on serving alcohol on city property.
Right.
I really, don't really have anything to do with all the other legwork that I did to find out. I just did it because, it's new with a wedding anyway to me.
Right.
So, but I think there's some amendments we can make to make it easier for everybody and make sure everybody's on the same page.
But that could be made later as well, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Anything else?
No.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 It passes. And that's all the business I have. And I'd like to call for adjournment at 6:45.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned at 6:45. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to call budget and appropriations to order at 6:50 p.m. Before I bring out the four motions I have, I wanted to call for a meeting next week at 6:30 p.m. I'm going to have Deb Gould come down for a budget update. So figured give her enough time so we're not rushing through it. I had the opportunity to speak with Deb Gould for a bit this afternoon about the budget, where we're at, what it's looking like, as well as I spoke with Jeremy Stahl this morning. So the administration is currently conducting interviews and their budget reviews rather with the department heads this week. But I think it's important for all of us to start really thinking about the budget. This year, I want to do something a little bit different with the budget hearing. So right now I'm looking at two Saturdays, Saturday, May 22nd and Saturday, June 5th via Zoom. On the 22nd, I'd like to get the department heads who have a bigger budget in front of us, and then we can get everyone else on the 5th or pull people back if we need to. It's a bit different, but instead of us doing it spread out over several weeks and then doing it on a Tuesday night where then we go right into a meeting, I figure we can have two concentrated meetings where the focus will be on the department heads in their testimony. I was really inspired to try this a few weeks back while watching the Ways and Means Committee conduct their budget hearings. And granted, it was on, I think it was actually a Wednesday or a Thursday, but they had them all together and they went in succession. I thought it was interesting and I figured we could try that here. So just looking out for that specifically as we get down there, down closer to that time. So from the docket of April 6th, yes, Councilor Corbett.
Councilor Conti had his hand up. Sorry.
Okay, Councilor Conti.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I just wanted to thank you for the Saturday meetings because I've missed a lot of budget meetings that I would have liked to have attended due to work commitments. And Saturday's perfect. I will make sure that I'm there. Do you know what time you're planning on starting?
At this point, I'm thinking like maybe 10 to 2.
Sure, great. Super. That's great.
Yeah, I don't want to take a ton of time away from people and their families, but I think 2 concentrated Saturdays where we're able to just focus on the budget hearings, I think will be a little more efficient than the ways we've done it in the past.
Thank you for doing it. I appreciate it.
I'll be glad to have you with us, sir.
If I could, one other. You had said you were calling for a committee meeting next week for Deb Gould to come down. When was that meeting again?
6:30.
6:30 next week. Okay.
Just because I wanted to give enough time for Deb to answer questions that might come up, so we're not rushing through it. I think there's a lot of moving parts, and obviously with COVID and some of the other revenue sources that are coming in, we're in an opportunity to really have a pretty robust discussion next week.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I've got your notes.
Perfect. Thanks, Doug. All right, from the docket of April 6, 2021, I entertain a motion to authorize the school department to pay a previous year's school invoice of $440 to the city of Attleboro Police.
Second.
Thank you, Counselor. So as we've seen throughout the pandemic, we've had bills come received after 6/30/2020, and this is just for the school department to be able to authorize $440 to the city of Attleboro Police, and this is for 2 different details. Any other questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. From the docket of April 6, 2021, I entertain a motion to transfer $12,189 from account 3412-599-000 Brennan Wamsutta roof repair, other financing uses to account 3429-499-000 Brennan Wamsutta repairs, other financing sources to close Fund 3412. The funds will be used in Fund 3429 for project costs, reducing the amount to be borrowed.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Corbett. So my comments are going to be for all 3 of these motions. Simply put, these are other capital projects for the schools, and you can tell that they're capital improvements for the schools aside from the name that the schools are in the project name, but just the 3, 4 in front of that would indicate that. So these are smaller capital improvements that are actually closed. So they're going to be transferring the rest of this money into the Brennan Wamsutta roofs capital account. That's for the $3.9 million roof project And this is the account that it's being managed out of and accounted for. So what this is going to do is we're going to take the 12,189 from this, the 13, almost 14,000 from the next one, and then the 4,000 from the other one, and we're going to put it into the new project account. What this is going to do is save us money in the long run because it's less money we're going to have to borrow on these projects. So I just thought it was, we've done this a couple weeks back. If you'll remember, committee, we did this with the water and some wastewater projects. So it's a way of controlling the costs that we might have to borrow. Councilor Conti.
So I approve of this measure because it preserves the dollars into capital improvement as they ride along. So even if the Brennan School roof project comes out under budget and there's a surplus, it'll be rolled over into another capital improvement project, which is a very good practice. And that concludes my comments.
No, well stated. I think it's a great practice. And whenever we can lower the amount of money we're borrowing and we can pay for it out of our own, for lack of a better word, cash, it puts us in a better situation because we're not going to be paying the interest on as much, obviously. All right. So that being said, any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. From the docket of April 6, 2021, I entertain a motion to transfer $13,598.25 from account 3416-599-000 Studley Calwall of the financing uses to account 3429-499-000 Brennan Wam Sutter repairs other financing sources to close fund 3416. The funds will be used in 3429 for project costs, reducing the amount to be borrowed.
Second.
Thank you, Todd. I have no other comments. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. And finally, from the docket of April 6, 2021, I entertain a motion to transfer $4,414.12 from account 3417-599-000 AHS Athletic Complex other financing uses to account 3429-499-000 Brennan Wamsutta repairs other financing sources to close 3417. The funds will be used in Fund 3429 for project costs, reducing the amount to be borrowed.
Second.
Any other comments, questions, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And I forgot one, I skipped right over it, so I apologize. From the docket of April 6, 2021, I entertain a motion to appropriate $55,218.59 from account 1000-359-000 undesignated fund balance free cash general government to account 1300-1000-551-011 school appropriation Medicaid to fund the municipal sharing agreement.
Second.
This is contractual, and this per the written memorandum of understanding between the City of Attleboro and the Attleboro School Department dated March 31st, 1999. I'll just read Deb's memo. I'm formally notifying the administration of the amount due to the school department. A detailed spreadsheet is on the reverse of this memorandum displaying the methodology by which the sum is calculated. The total revenue received through the University of Massachusetts Medical Center credible to the program less expenditures associated with the administration of the program are taken into consideration as previously agreed. And the amount due to the school for fiscal 20 municipal Medicaid is $55,218.59. Questions, thoughts, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. So real quick before I adjourn, next week when Deb's in, it will be next Tuesday at 6:30. I asked Deb to talk a little bit about free cash from last year, the $8 million. How much of it have we used? Where is it? Just kind of almost get remedial with it in the sense that how does that work? Because it was such a big amount of money. So she's going to talk a little bit about that. And then a couple other things we'll talk about throughout the week that we'll raise. So if you have any questions or anything, please send them to me through Virginia and we'll take care of it. Any other questions, thoughts, or concerns? All right, I would move to adjourn at 6:59.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned at 6:59. Thank you, committee.
Okay, I'm going to start in about 30 seconds.
Jim, I hit that button. What was supposed to come up? The red light?
The blue.
I don't see any blue.
Okay, it's 7:01. I'd like to call this meeting of the Municipal Council to order at 7:01. Mr. Withers, would you kindly do a roll call attendance, please?
Yes, Mr. Blair,
Oh, okay.
Mr. Blair,
Here.
Ms. DeSimone,
Here.
Mr. Conti,
Here,
Mr. Waterman,
Here,
Vice President Jackson,
Here.
Mr. Delisio,
Here,
he's here, I know. Mr. Cobus,
Here.
Ms. Dolan,
Here.
Ms. Reynolds,
Here.
Ms. Holmes, she is out, I believe, and President Cooper.
Yeah,
So everyone except Ms. Holmes is present.
thank you. Mr. Jones, can you bring in the members of the planning board? We're going to start with the joint public hearing. As soon as the planning board comes in, Mr. Withers, you can read the notice.
Okay. There's Gary. Is that everybody?
It only looks like 4 member.
That's a quorum tonight, Mr. President.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Gary.
You're welcome.
Mr. Withers, would you kindly read the notice of the first joint public hearing this evening?
Yes, this is a public hearing relative to the joint public hearing with the planning board to discuss the partial street discontinuance of Rathbun Willard Drive, approximately 530 feet.
Great, thank you. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this matter this evening? I see Attorney Jacoby and I think Jeremy. I'm not sure if both of them wish to speak on this, but you can bring in whoever's up first.
Hi, President Cooper and members of the
Good
Municipal
evening.
Council.
Good evening.
Has Jack Jacoby joined us?
I see him in the list. Yep, he's coming.
All right, so as Jack joins, I'm going to be sharing my screen with you all to show you the plan of discontinuance and then show a rendering of what the roundabout, the rotary would look like post discontinuance. So I'm going to let Jack get started, some of the history of the project, and then what it's going to look like going forward.
Great. Jack, thanks for joining us. If you could just give us your name for the record, that would be great. And then we can get started. Jeremy, feel free to share when you're ready.
Okay. First of all, you can hear me?
We can.
Thank you. Jack Jacoby, 15 Prince Street. I am the vice, Jeremy, would you put the other plan up first? I am the vice chairman of the school building committee, and we are here to talk about the traffic circle. There it is. This is the rendering that you may all have seen. This is the traffic circle that will connect Rome Boulevard, Drummond Street, Rathbun Willard, and the new north-south extension to Rathbun Willard. And as you can see, there are a whole lot of improvements, but in particular, you can see that there are sidewalks that we have constructed, and there will be grassy areas inside those sidewalks on the north side. What we would like to do, because we don't need that grassy area as part of the public way anymore. And Jeremy, if you could share the other plan now. What we would like to do is to abandon 4 parcels of land that are within the public way that are not needed. Those are all planted with grass. They will, the contractor is not finished with it yet. They owe us 5 mowings before they turn it over to us, but it will be turned over to us sometime this spring. And so there is a parcel on the left, B2, which would go to the D.D. Murphy properties. There is parcel B1 on the left, which would go to the Mellows. On the right side, you will see A1, which goes to the Bombardiers. And then further right is a parcel A2, which would go to some people named McGee. So what our thought here is that since this will look like part of their front lawn, we'd like them to mow it rather than having Mike Tyler have to send someone out there once a week to mow it. And we thought it was inappropriate to ask the homeowner to mow it without giving it to them. So the first step in the process is to ask you to discontinue parcels A1, A2, B1, and B2 as part of the public way. That will still leave it within the ownership of the city. And then the mayor will send down to you a request to sell each of these parcels to the homeowners for $1 a piece. And that way they will have ownership, they will take care of it, and they won't be complaining to the mayor's office or their ward councilor, could be Councilor Cooper, if the area is not maintained. So I'd also point out to you that there is a sewer line that runs through parcel B1 and B2, and we would be maintaining an easement as part of the conveyance to those homeowners. So it's getting rid of some unneeded land that will be planted with grass, and it's giving them to the people we hope will take good care of it. That's a short and sweet explanation.
Jack, thank you for that explanation. As my only question is relative to the easement in parcel A1. Will that easement continue out through the parcel to be conveyed to the new owners? Because that drainage easement looks like it probably goes out to the existing edge of the right of way. If we convey that, is there going to be a problem with that easement if we needed to get in there?
Are you talking about on the B side, on the left side, Mark?
No, I'm talking about the A side. So A1, there's an easement to the north. It says existing drainage easement. I can't read it, but it's a little small. Is that, yeah, there we go. Is that easement going to continue into the parcel A1 that's going to be conveyed?
Oh, I see what you mean. Yes, we will maintain our rights in that easement as well on this side.
Okay, great. Thank you. That concludes my comments. Any comments from the council or the planning board? Questions for Mr. Jacoby? All right. I don't see or hear anyone. Jack, Jeremy, thank you. Jeremy, if you don't mind just staying until I go through the rest of the in favor in case people are on that might have questions about the plan, that would be great.
Yeah, certainly.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak in favor? Is there anyone here that would like to, in opposition? Anyone in opposition? Anyone neither for nor against? Anyone neither for nor against? Seeing none. Mr. Chairman, do you see any reason to keep this public hearing open?
I do not.
Mr. President, I think Mr. Denise is having issues with his audio, so he might not be able to respond.
Okay. So Paul, give me the thumbs up if you want me to close it. Thank you. And Mr. Kobus, do you see any reason to keep this open?
I do not.
Okay, this public hearing is closed. Thank you. Thank you all for coming this evening.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. The second public hearing this evening is, Mr. Withers, would you kindly read the notice?
It's a public hearing relative to the administration's program year 2021 Community Development Block Grant Entitlement Budget, program year 2021 Annual Action Plan, and amendments including CARES Act funds.
Great, thank you. And I saw Dorothy Brissette on the line, so we'll bring her in, and when she comes in, we'll be good. She can kick us off.
Good evening, members of the Municipal Council, President Cooper.
Hello.
Dorothy Brissette, Community Development Director for the city. I'm pleased to be before you guys yet again this year to present the request for the approval of the program year 2021 action plan and submission of that plan to HUD for community development block grant funds. And also this evening, I'm going to be requesting an approval and of an amendment for an increase to our CARES Act funds. I do have a PowerPoint presentation that I'd like to share tonight if possible.
Sure.
Just bear with me 1 second here. Share, here we go, okay. Okay. Okay, so the city has been a recipient of block grant funds since the early 80s. We've received over $15 million in federal funds to assist over thousands of low-income Attleboro residents. In the current program year, we have two pots of money. We have our entitlement funds and we have our CARES Act funds. We received notification in April of last year that we had the availability to apply for CARES Act money to address, respond to, and prevent anyone who is affected by the COVID virus. So in reference to that budget, the city did receive an allocation of $256,000. Through March, we have expended $100,000 so far, and we expect to expend $178,000 through the end of June. With those funds, we've served about 110 people who have been affected by the virus, either through rental and mortgage assistance programs, providing assistance to individuals businesses who have been affected by the virus, mostly rental and utility assistance through that small recovery program. And then also we provided some childcare vouchers to essential workers. In reference to our entitlement budget, we received $473,246 for our entitlement in the current program year. We have expended $133,000, just over $133,000, and we expect to expend a total amount of $453,000 by the end of the program year. This was a most unconventional year for us. Half the year we spent home or at a standstill. And then the second half of the year, we've sort of been just running to get these funds expended as quickly as possible. As most of you know, with the block grant funds, we are constantly faced up against what's called a timeliness test. This means that each community cannot ever have more than 1.5 times its allocation available to expend in their budget. HUD has never been lenient when it comes to that statutory requirement. And unfortunately, this program year has been no different. Lucky for us, as you can see by the numbers, we're in an excellent position to expend the majority of the allocation that we received during the program year. And as a result of that, we would have served over 465 people. I give a tremendous amount of credit to our social service agencies who work quite a substantial unconventional time under emergency type situations. We are also providing funding for the acquisition of a property that will yield an additional new 31 affordable housing units in our community. So we're increasing our affordable housing stock, which is fantastic and part of our 5-year plan. And we have completed 3 housing rehabilitation programs and even offered financial assistance to 2 new economic development businesses and created 3 new jobs. So even during this unprecedented time, we have been in an excellent position in expending our funds. So moving on to the new program year, we received a notification from HUD at the end of February on what the availability of our funds would be. So the allocation that's allotted to us in the upcoming program year, which begins on July 1 of 2021, is $408,435. That's approximately a 9% decrease from our previous program year. That was somewhat expected. The feds have been rolling out a tremendous amount of money. So there needed to be some form of compensation somewhere. There are also additional communities who have qualified as entitled communities, which means there are more hands in the cookie jar, for lack of better terms. We expect to receive approximately $15,000 in loan repayments throughout the program year, which makes our available budget $438,435, beginning July 1. In reference to the CARES Act grant, we did receive notification in September of 2020 that we had the availability to apply for $398,593 in CARES Act funds. On September 28th, we placed an ad in the paper requesting RFPs. We notified social service agencies, city departments, various collaboration agencies that we've worked with in the past. We received 2 applications during that time. As a result of that, we sort of felt like since the grant had only been within its first quarter of its program year at that time, we determined that it would be best to just assess what direction this virus is going in. The needs may be a little bit more different entering into a new program year. So we opted to hold off and re-advertise the availability of those funds along with the availability of our entitlement funds. We do expect to reprogram approximately $30,000. This was an agency that had submitted a request for us. They were approved and then later on determined that they would not be able to carry out their activity. So we did recapture those funds. It also includes a bit of administrative money that was not expended. So our available budget for the CARES Act fund moving into the new program year would be $448,593. So we held a public hearing on January 26th via Zoom. I had 11 attendees, my biggest level of attendees to date. And at that time, we made the CDBG application for CARES Act funds and the entitlement funds available. The submission deadline date was March 1st. In reference to our entitlement program, we expect to set aside $87,000 towards administration. That is 20% of our allotted entitlement funds. We never exceed that amount as we're not allowed to. That covers the community development director and the community development administrator's position, 100% along with any fringe that's related to those 2 positions. The administrator's position is a part-time position, 2 days a week, so there are no fringe benefits related to that. In reference to the Affordable Housing Initiative, we're setting aside $136,375. This will allow the city to renovate 2 to 3 single-family homes, including any emergency repairs, and also provide funding for the housing rehabilitation coordinator We're required when you operate a housing rehabilitation type program or an affordable housing acquisition type program, you are required to have a rehab consultant on staff so that they can do all of our inspections, our cost estimates, so on and so forth. So that budget would allow for us to rehab properties as well as cover the cost of that expense. We're going to continue to support the Economic Development Initiative with $50,000. This will provide one business with up to $50,000 in assistance. That business will receive $25,000 in grants and $25,000 at 0% interest amortized over 15 years. As a result of that, will yield two new jobs for low-income Attleboro residents. That we also have some previous year monies set aside for that initiative. So we could possibly do more than just one project during the program year, depending on how many qualified applications we receive. We are expecting to fund public facility improvements, more so the removal of a barrier to sidewalk improvements on Bank and Dean Street in the upcoming program year. The Department of Public Works had submitted an application, and we had determined that those two neighborhoods qualified not only as a low-income neighborhood, but also the need of a removal of a barrier for the sidewalks. So we'll be putting in new sidewalks in those two neighborhoods. In reference to social services, we are funding the social service agencies with $65,650. We did receive 6 applications in total. We are opting to fund 5 applications. The reason why we are not funding the 6th application is because based off of the application and the job description for the position that we would be funding, it was determined that the position is more so an administrative position instead of a direct benefit service. With social service projects, you are subject to demonstrating that the type of project that we are funding is providing a direct benefit service. And the application and the job description that was submitted to us fell more so under the administrative category. Now, the city could opt to fund that position out of our administrative budget, but then that would mean the city would have to compensate and pick up my salary as well as the program administrative salary. And once the city has done that, the city can no longer go back to the block grant to refund those 2 positions. So based off of that information, also another side note, the city does have a social service person on staff through the health department that does help individuals ages 60 and under, providing them with referrals to various social service agencies. They work really closely with the agencies, sit on multiple boards. So we also felt that, this position might be a repeated service. And those were the 2 reasons why it was opted not to fund that particular activity. But the various agencies that we are funding will provide ESL classes, outreach services to seniors, a drop-in center for kids in low-income neighborhoods. We're going to continue to support our local food pantry, and then also legal services for seniors. As most of you know, in reference to the entitlement grant, the city is not able to fund more than 15% of its total allocation plus any program income that it had received in the prior year. So we are capped on the amount of money that we're allowed to set aside with our entitlement funds. Okay. In reference to the CARES Act, we are setting aside $30,000 for administration. I'll circle back around on the administration component of it. We will continue to support our small business recovery grant program. The city has been providing funding through this program, a $10,000 grant to small businesses who have been directly affected by the virus. Most of our assistance has been for utilities and rent. Rent has been a big thing for a lot of our small businesses. And in the current program year, we did fund 3 projects, and we'd like to continue to create that initiative moving on in the next program year. Through the community development office, we are asking to fund an emergency housing service component with 124,713. This is to provide emergency rental and mortgage assistance to individuals and families who have been affected by the virus. And circling back to the administrative $30,000 budget, that particular position will be made available to support that initiative, review applications, determine eligibility, complete environmental assessments on the project, write the contracts. Also, that position will be funded to review and monitor the social service agencies that we are proposing to fund at $193,880. With CARES Act funds, HUD has waived our 15% cap. So we are allowed to fund social service agencies at their maximum amount. So let's just go, here we go. We did receive 8 applications during that program, during this program process. We have opted to fund 6 of them. The 2 applications that we will not be funding, the application that was submitted for CDBG funds, submitted it for CDBG funds and CARES Act funds. Again, it's an administrative, we determined that it was more so of an administrative position, a liaison to social service agencies, and did not provide a direct benefit service. So we opted not to fund that position through CARES Act funds as well. And the second application was submitted late. We had a submission deadline date of 12 o'clock, and they submitted the application past that submission deadline date. And also the application did not demonstrate to us that the use of funds would be to address those who've been directly affected by the virus. The agencies that we are funding are going to provide housing rental assistance, mortgage assistance, camp subsidy for kids who've been affected by the virus. There's been a substantial study done on how children are emotionally affected by this virus, and they're lacking that sort of social component. And these camp vouchers will allow low-income kids to go to camp and rebuild those relationships again. There will also be meals provided to seniors who are still homebound and hadn't been or too afraid to come out, and then emergency housing assistance as well through the Y. Okay. So with the entitlement funds, the city is required to complete a 30-day mandatory comment period. That comment period starts tomorrow and will run through May 10th. In reference to the CARES Act fund, we are only subject to a minimum of a 5-day comment period. But I am extending that comment period for 15 days. So that comment period will start tomorrow and will be available and open for comment through April 23rd. So a draft version of both of the amended plan and the new action plan for the new funds are available in our office. I'll also make it available at the city's website. Typically, we would have a hard copy of it available at the public library, but since the library has been closed or with limited access, our hard copy will be available in the office and then via email per request as well. So the submission deadline date for our action plan for the entitlement funds is May 15th. So I am respectfully requesting that the council approve that plan, review and approve that plan prior to that submission deadline date. In reference to the CARES Act funds, the sooner the better. I'd like to submit that plan by April 30th if possible. So if we can get a submission, if we can get an approval on the amendment of that plan prior to April 30th, that would certainly put the city in a better position and with the ability to expend those funds sooner rather than later. So, thank you. Oh, Mark, you're muted.
Thank you. Thanks for that presentation. I do have a couple of follow-up questions.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just tell me very briefly what the Y senior meals is? It's not something I'm familiar with. I'm more familiar with Meals on Wheels programs, and I know that those have gotten a lot of increased utilization given the impact of COVID. So I hadn't seen that before. So that's a new one.
So that, so this is a new pilot program. This is the first year they're doing it, and it's exactly the same as Meals on Wheels. So the funding will be provided for the purchase of the meals. On average, it's anticipated that with the preparation of the meal, the purchase of the utilities, utensils, and the actual food, that it would cost on average about $5 per meal. There are volunteers who are delivering, so that helps sort of bring that cost down. So it is, Mark, it's exactly the same thing. It's similar to a Meals on Wheels program, and this was generated as a result of the demand for meals to seniors.
Okay. And then I understand the need for the CARES Act to be voted sooner rather than later, and I think we can make that happen.
Great, thank you.
The CDBG vote, though, before the end of the comment period, is that something we've done in the past?
We can. The comment period needs to remain open for the comment period timeframe, and the request for funds the application to HUD cannot be submitted prior to the close of the comment period.
I see.
This public hearing is part of our citizens participation process. It's actually something that we have written into our policy that the council review and approve the budget. It's not, the council's approval is not subject to, the comment period. I typically like to run the comment period in conjunction with presenting the budget to council because, there's a bigger audience and, it allows for the people the opportunity to reach out to me with any questions.
And then my final question is, I think you commented at the beginning that this was the most number that you've had at your sort of initial opening presentation on CDBG. Did that yield a higher number of applications because there was a higher level of interest, or?
Yeah, actually it didn't. In reference to our social service agencies, we got approximately the same number of applications as we do in any given year. In this program year, we actually had more money available to social service agencies than we did in applications. We had a pretty substantial loan payoff for a housing rehabilitation project that we did, which would increase the availability of funds for social service, that category. So we actually got we had more money available than we did applications this year. So a lot of it, I'm finding that a lot of the social service agencies are still running on a sort of abbreviated schedule. And with the requirements of CDBG funds, the collection of data, the income verification forms, there was a lot of conversation between myself and the social service agencies and those who attended the needs meeting after the needs meeting about, hey, yeah, we want to apply for these funds, but here are the sort of dilemmas that we're having with your program and your requirements. What can we do about it to move forward? So I've had a lot of conversations with the agencies. Everyone in which I have spoken to, everyone did apply. And there are a lot of new pilot programs that were presented to me to determine whether or not it would sort of fit, within the program guidelines.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council at this time? Councilor Delicio and then Waterman.
Thank you, President Cooper. So Dot, as always, thank you. I understand how vital this program is, and I know you've come before us in the past and said, there could be years that we don't get it. So luckily we haven't been there yet. I can only imagine how hard it is to have to deny someone. So I appreciate the explanation as to why and really a deeper understanding of the parameters. A couple questions though is the CARES Act is now known as the ARP, the American Relief Program. Is that semantics or is that something that we could see further impact this program down the line?
I think it's just semantics. I mean, there has been discussion of a possible third round of funding. This second time around, we did receive a lot more than we received on our first round. Our first allocation of CARES Act funds was $256,000. This allocation is $365,000. So to think that, excuse me, that there may be additional funds available down the road, I honestly feel like it's just semantics. Under HUD's guidelines, this is considered the CDBG CV grant. So it's under the CDBG program. The projects that we fund have to follow the CDBG stipulations and guidelines. The only difference between the two programs is, as I mentioned earlier, there is no limit on how much you can provide to social service agencies. And also the funds that we do provide to the agencies or to anybody, for example, has to be a direct impact related to the virus.
No, thank you for that. 'Cause the other piece I was wondering, and just kind of get your, if I could follow up, President Cooper, I'm sorry.
Sure, absolutely.
You know, especially with the Biden administration's new infrastructure plan, I was wondering if you thought that you could see an offshoot of that roll up under this program as well.
I mean, it's possible. Back in 2011 or so, there was what was called the CDBG Recovery Grant that most communities got specifically used for infrastructure in an effort to create and retain jobs for those in those fields. It's possible. As of right now, I'm not receiving any word. The city is part of the National Community Development Association, so we're on top of what's going on in Washington. And as of right now, there isn't any discussion as to whether or not there would be any additional fundings available towards infrastructure. The consortium as a whole, just on a side note, I apologize for interrupting, Jay. The consortium as a whole, as you know, Attleboro is part of a 14 community consortium, and we're one of the lead communities in that consortium. There is discussion, and we have received notification that the consortium is going to be receiving funding specifically to address homelessness. So we have not received an allotted amount at this point in an effort to plan those funds. But once Taunton, who's the lead agency of our consortium, does receive that notification of the availability of those funds, there's another opportunity for Attleboro to benefit in an effort to address homelessness in our community. So.
Well, that's good to hear. I know Representative Hawkins is doing a lot of work around that. So
yeah, we've been in contact.
Sure. President Cooper, if I could ask a follow-up.
Sure.
Thank you. So you talked about $124,713 for housing emergencies.
Mm-hmm.
Are these funds able to be used in the event that we see any major changes to any of the eviction or the housing moratoriums?
So right now through South Coast Legal Services, we are providing funding for that specific need. So there are some legal services available through that. I am in the process of writing up the plan for the use of those funds and the guidelines for the use of those funds. So by the recommendation of the board, if you'd like to see that written in, it is certainly considered an eligible expense. And it might even be considered an eligible expense under the social service cap versus a housing rehabilitation emergency service project. Right now, my plan was to provide housing rental assistance and mortgage assistance to individuals and families who have been affected by the virus. There are some limitations in reference to how much you can offer in assistance. And if that dollar amount is less than what their actual payment is, then the individual would have to provide proof that they can make up the difference, for example. But it could offer up to 6 months worth of assistance to families who are in need. So.
Thank you. It's a kind of a scary piece of the puzzle as to where we're at. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Waterman.
Yes, thank you. Dorothy, your efforts on this is just terrific.
Thank you.
We're very lucky to have you here. I had one question regarding that's a follow-up to Councilor Delizio, I think. Specifically the Y Emergency Housing Program. Can you spell that out a little bit more?
Sure. So currently the Y has a housing rehab, or I'm sorry, a housing component through their agency where they house 14 individuals, single room occupancy. Those individuals, were already at an extremely low income sort of status prior to the virus. And now some of them are currently unemployed and have an inability to pay for their rent. And for them to remain in that program, they have to cover their rent. So that application is to assist those individuals. We did provide CARES Act funds to those individuals during our first round. We did only provide 3 months worth of financial assistance at the time because that's what the guidelines, the CDBG guidelines at the time were. HUD has since sort of come to its senses and allowed for up to 6 months. So the funding that they're requesting in this program year is to provide an additional 3 months worth of assistance to those 14 individuals.
Thank you. That just happens to be the work I did at the Y for a long time, and I'm really delighted that we have this program for them. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for your services.
Thank you. Any additional comments for Dorothy at this time? Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here to speak in favor? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition? Anyone here to speak in opposition? Anyone here neither for nor against? Anybody neither for nor against? Okay, Councilor Conti, do you see any reason to keep this public hearing open?
I do not. Please close it.
Thank you. That public hearing is closed. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you so much, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you too. Mr. Withers, would you kindly read the notice of the second public hearing this evening?
The third one.
Oh, the
Actually,
third one. Yeah.
Public hearing relative to the street acceptance plan of Simpson Avenue, length of 165.71 feet.
Great. Thank you. Is there anyone here to speak in favor? Anyone to speak in up? Anyone here to speak in favor? Anyone to speak in opposition? Anyone neither for nor against? Okay, Council Cobus, I'm not closing this public hearing because
Nope. Let's keep it open.
Yep. So that public hearing is continued until April 20th. Moving on to the next public hearing.
This is a public hearing relative to the street acceptance plan of Grace Lane, length of 615.82 feet.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to speak in favor? Anyone here to speak in favor? Anyone? Actually,
There's a number of attendees.
I know, and I see Bob Perry, and I think he put Grace Lane in because that's named after Grace Hart. And I think Bob Perry, I think I signed the planning board plans on that. I think he was one of the, so I wonder if he's trying to get in. And I know Councilor Jackson and I believe you, Councilor Cobus, got an email from Gary today about this. And I see Bob's coming in now, so.
Okay, I am in.
You are in. Hi, Bob. How are you?
Great, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. So thanks for joining us. I know that we got an email today. There was some concern about the condition of the sidewalks, and both of those issues were, I believe, resolved in the email that we received. So I appreciate you coming tonight. I don't know if the council has any questions for Mr. Perry at this time, but I don't. My questions were answered as a result of the email from Gary. So, but thank you for joining, Bob.
Okay.
Any questions for Mr. Perry at this time? All right. Bob, thank you.
Okay.
Is there anyone here to speak in opposition? Anyone here to speak in opposition? Anyone neither for nor against? You know what, Council Cobus, I'm going to keep this one open too till 4:20, just in case.
You give them time. Sounds good.
But I think I see Council Jackson shaking her head. I think she was satisfied with the explanation. It's her word, so I'll let her speak for herself when the time comes. But I think that we were okay with the explanation from Gary. Bobby and Mike both went out there as well with Gary today. So, but that just came today. So the rest of the council will get that explanation as well. All right. So that public hearing is also continued until, what did I just say, April 20th?
April 20th.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, we'll go on to the reading of the mayor's communication.
April 6th, 2021, the municipal councilors. I respectfully submit for confirmation by your honorable body the following reappointments for the positions and for the terms as indicated. Diane Keaton, Cultural Council, 3 years, expires February 2024. Kent Richards, Zoning Board of Appeals, 3 years, expires February 2024. Catherine Rothschild-Strauch, Zoning Board of Appeals Associate, 2 years, February 2023.
Personnel, Veterans, and Human Services Committee, please.
For your information, the Historical Commission has appointed Blake Reynolds as an alternate member to fill an unexpired term to expire February 2022. Council confirmation is not needed for this appointment. I respectfully submit for confirmation by your honorable body the appointment of David Pierce, 2 Homestead Lane, to fill an expired term on the Board of Library Trustees, term to expire February 2024. Copies in your packets.
Personnel, Veterans, and Human Services Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Legal Secretary Allison Wood regarding a vehicle that the police department would like to declare as surplus. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body to declare the following as surplus and available for disposition. Copies in your packets. It is a 2011 Ford Crown Vic with 77,939 miles, and it is in poor condition.
City Property and Claims Committee, please.
I respectfully request your honorable body to transfer $70,000 from account citywide insurance to account citywide street lights in order to satisfy the balances of invoices for the remainder of fiscal year 2021. The amount requested is consistent with transfers made in previous fiscal years.
Public Works Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Legal Secretary Allison Wood regarding vehicles that the Department of Public Works would like to declare surplus. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body to declare the following as surplus and available for disposition. Copies in your packets. They are a 2005 Ford Expedition with 169,257 miles in very poor condition, and a 1987 International S 1954, 114,961 miles in very poor condition.
City Property and Claims Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from City Treasurer Laura Gignac regarding the need for funds to pay the med tax for non-school and non-enterprise employees. Excuse me, a review of the med tax account reveals that additional funding will be required to cover the anticipated expenses for the remainder of fiscal year 2021. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body appropriate $20,000 from account undesignated fund balance free cash general government to account treasurer Medicare tax. Copies in your packets.
Budget Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from City Clerk Stephen Withers regarding the need for funds to purchase office supplies for the remainder of fiscal year 2021. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $150 from account Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer to account Clerk Supplies Office. Upon approval, the available balance in the Reserve Fund for transfer to include any pending requests will be $45,583.40. Copies in your packets.
Budget Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Superintendent of Wastewater Thomas Hayes regarding the need for funds to replace 3 blended sludge pumps and miscellaneous hardware. The blended sludge pumps were installed during the 2004 retrofit, and currently 2 of the 3 pumps have failing gear reduction units that need replacement. The requested amount includes a 10% contingency. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body appropriate $65,000 from account Wastewater Enterprise Fund retained earnings to fund 3228 blended sludge pumps. Copies in your packets.
Public Works Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Superintendent of Wastewater Thomas Hayes regarding the need for funds to purchase 39 manhole covers and frames. The approved paving routes for 2021 has given to the wastewater department by Public Works, and it has been determined that a total of 39 manhole covers and frames will need to be purchased. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $8,000 from account Wastewater Enterprise Fund Reserve Fund for transfer to account Wastewater Enterprise Fund Street Maintenance Supplies. Upon approval, the available balance in Reserve Fund for transfer to include any pending requests will be $13,574.08. Copies in your packets.
Public Works Committee, please.
I respectfully submit for confirmation by your honorable body the appointment of Earl Ford, 6 Atwood Street, to fill an expired term on the Cultural Council, term to expire February 2024.
Personnel,
Copies in your packets.
Personnel, Veterans, and Human Services Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Legal Secretary Allison Wood regarding office equipment that the Elections Office would like to declare as surplus. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body to declare the following as surplus and available for disposition. Copies in your packets. An IBM Personal Wheel Writer Lexmark, a Lexmark printer cartridge, and a Royal typewriter.
City Property and Claims Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Health Department Outreach Worker / Case Manager Tesha Silva regarding a donation of a $15 Dunkin' Donuts gift card by a resident. This card will be offered to the Health Department to an individual or family in need. In accordance with Section 1-12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, I hereby request your honorable body to accept this generous gift to the City of Attleboro. Copies in your packets.
City Property and Claims Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Fire Chief Scott T. LaChance regarding the need for funds to purchase housekeeping supplies for the remainder of fiscal year 2021. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body to transfer $2,500 from account Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer to account Fire Supplies Housekeeping. Upon approval, the available balance in Reserve Fund for transfer to include any pending requests will be $43,083.40. Copies in your packets.
Budget and Appropriations Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Health Agent Jessica Horstman regarding the receipt of the Massachusetts Association of Health Board, or MAHB, grant in the amount of approximately $23,936. The funds will be used for the prevention, testing, and mitigation of COVID-19. In accordance with Chapter 1, Section 12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, I hereby request your honorable body to approve the expenditure of such funds by the Health Department and also approve any further grant amendments. Copies in your packets.
Personnel, Veterans, and Human Services Committee, please.
For your information, I regret to inform your honorable body that we have received the resignation of Victor Bonneville from the Historical Commission. Please join me in thanking Mr. Bonneville for his service to the city. For your information, I regret to inform your honorable body that we have received the resignation of Kevin Lacoste from the Disability Commission. Please join me in thanking Mr. Lacoste for his service to the city. I respectfully submit a communication from Director of Recreation, Dennis Walsh, regarding the need for funds to replace the Pebble Tech material at the Fred E. Briggs Pool in order to open the pool this summer. The water has seeped under the Pebble Tech material and has gotten trapped between this material and the concrete and caused a dangerous situation. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body appropriate $25,000 from account undesignated fund balance free cash general government to account Recreation Briggs Pool. Copies in your packets.
Capital Improvements and City Development Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Superintendent of Public Works, Michael Tyler, and Director of Veterans, Ben Quell, regarding the need for funds to purchase 15 Purple Heart signs. Attleboro became one of about 116 towns in Massachusetts to be designated as a Purple Heart entity, and to this date, we have not placed any notice within our community or visitors. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $1,999.43 from account Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer to account Public Works, signed Purple Heart. Upon approval, the available balance in Reserve Fund for transfer to include any pending requests will be $41,083.97. Copies in your packets.
Personnel, Veterans, and Human Services Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Superintendent of Public Works, Michael Tyler, regarding the need for funds to survey Reed Street for the possibility of installing sidewalks. As sidewalks are a public safety issue and a quality of life issue, I've attempted to add sidewalks in most places where we repave when we repave a city street and other sidewalks. Hang on. This summer, we are going to repave Reed Street from curb to curb. Reed Street sidewalk requests outnumber all other sidewalk requests combined. There are hundreds of families that live on or off Reed Street who would benefit from sidewalks. As such, considering that we have the debt capacity due to retired debt from other city projects, I am seeking to install sidewalks on one side of Reed Street prior to paving the street due to the water main replacement being done by the Water Department. To find out if this is a viable project and to get better estimate on the project's cost, Reed Street needs to be surveyed and accurately determine what is city property and what property lines are at odds. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body to appropriate $28,000 from account undesignated fund balance free cash general government to account Public Works survey. Copies in your packets.
Public Works Committee, please.
Sincerely, Paul Haru, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the other clerk's communications.
Yes, the first one is a joint request from National Grid and Verizon to install stub pole and wires across from pole 8992 at the intersection of West Street and Rockland Avenue.
Public Works Committee, please. And Council Jackson, would you like to have a public hearing on April 20th?
April 20th sounds good to me. Yes, please.
Perfect.
Okay.
Wait, we have to vote that, right?
We'll roll call
Yes.
vote.
The roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes,
10 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
Okay. We have also received a request from National Grid to install a new pole, 1592-50 on West Street, 45 feet west of pole 1592.
Thank you. Again, Public Works Committee and Council Jackson, would you like to have a committee meeting on that matter on April 20th?
Yes, I would. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. A roll call vote's required, and we'll begin with Councilor
Reynolds.
Reynolds.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes,
10 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
And President Cooper, both those public hearings are on April 20th, right?
That is correct. That is
Thank
correct.
you.
Yep.
Okay, and finally, we have an automatic amusement device license application from JR's Bar and Grill, 147 Pine Street, for 1 pool table and 1 jukebox.
License Committee, please.
And I'd like to thank Councilor Dolan for that. And we also received a petition from Bourne Avenue residents requesting permanent speed humps on Bourne Avenue.
Thank you. Transportation and Traffic Committee and the administration.
And that is all.
Thank you. Moving right along, I'd entertain a motion to go into Committee of the Whole.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Roll call vote is required, and we'll begin with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yeah.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes,
10 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes. We are in Committee of the Whole. If there is anyone, the only person I see is Catherine. So I don't think there's anybody there that would like to address the council on any matter of city business at this time, but if there is, now's the time to do so. Seeing none, I entertain a motion to arise.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. A roll call vote will begin with Council Reynolds.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan, okay, Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes,
10 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes. Moving right along to committee reports, we'll begin with Councilor Blair.
Thank you, Mr. President. Reporting for Public Safety and Emergency Management Committee from the docket of April 6, 2021. I move to transfer $5,000 from account 1124100-5783000 citywide reserve fund for transfer to account 1220100-514010 fire college credits. Have a second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any additional comments?
We discussed it last week, but this is contractual, so it's a have to do situation.
All right. Any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, a roll call will begin with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yeah.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes,
10 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. From the docket of April 6, 2021, I move to appropriate $45,000 from account 100-359000, undesignated fund balance, free cash, general government, to account 12220-100-513021, fire dispatcher overtime.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any additional comments?
This is partly due to this fund being underfunded last year. And also, we had a fire dispatcher leave, which causes more overtime. So something we have to do to make sure our citizens are protected by having a dispatcher there at all times.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Council Reynolds.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes,
10 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
I move to appropriate $15,712.03 from account 100-359000, undesignated fund balance, free cash, general government, to account 1220100-515030, fire severance sick incentive.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any additional comments?
No, this is just another contract. It's by contract with the fire department, the firefighters.
Okay. Any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Council Blair, I believe.
Yes, yep, Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes,
10 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
The docket of April 6, 2021, I move to approve expending of the Emergency Management Performance Grant in the amount of $15,500 rewarded to the fire department and approve expending of and any future grant amendment.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any additional questions or comments?
We talked about this in committee last week. It's to purchase a pumper and tank to go into the pickup truck that we have at the fire station, so we can get water to any brush fires and whatnot off the road where we can't send in a pumper.
Okay. Any additional comments, questions? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Council Reynolds.
Ms. Reynolds, Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yeah.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes,
10 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of April 6, 2021, I move to transfer $2,634 from account 1124100-5783000, citywide reserve fund for transfer, to account 1220100-5878082, fire mini apparatus to be used with the EMPG grant.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any additional comments?
No, that unit that grant money is short by that amount of money to buy that particular piece of equipment that we talked about in the previous motion.
Any additional questions? Roll call vote will begin with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Delicio,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
President Cooper.
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
While I have the floor, Mr. Cooper, next week in committee, I'm going to bring out the motion to send to the mayor in regards to the computer system for the fire and police department. I've been in touch with Bill Lennox. I think it's been over a month. We were assured the last time this come up, that this was being handled by the administration and it was already in progress. My conversation with Mr. Lennox was that it's not in progress. So I think it's time that we send a formal notice up to the mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Any additional? Anything else, Councilor Blair?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor DeSimone.
Thank you, President Cooper. Traffic and Transportation has no business to report this evening, but we look forward to our next committee meeting at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Conti.
Thank you, Mr. President. From reporting for capital improvements and city development from the docket of April 6, 2021, I move to approve the transfer $4,127.92 from the citywide reserve fund for transfer account to the police maintenance buildings account to repair the police station air conditioning.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any additional comment? Councilor Conti.
This unit is 39 years old, and I'm delighted we can get it fixed for $4,127. That concludes my comments.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Councilor Reynolds.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Mr. Delicio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cooper.
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of April 6, 2021, I move to transfer $35.76 from account 3215-599000, the cap demo old landfill, other financing uses, to account 3219-499000, WW Project CV number 1-112216, other financing sources, to close Fund 3215 and use the funds towards the remaining work related to the cap and demo construction.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any additional comments, Councilor Conti?
$35.76 is not going to take us a long way to assist in the cap and demo construction of the dump, but it's a routine household action, and I recommend my councilors support it, and that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Roll call vote will begin with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Delicio,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
President Cooper.
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of April 6, 2021, I move to transfer $29,485.59 from account 3223-5990 vehicle equipment, other financing uses, to account 3225-499000 WW plant, that'd be the wastewater plant upgrade, other financing sources, to finance a portion of the wastewater treatment plant upgrades authorized on April 6, 2019.
16th.
April 16, 2019. I stand corrected.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any additional comments, Councilor Conti?
This too is a routine transfer to keep the funds into the department, and I would recommend its passage, and that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Seeing none, a roll call will begin with Counselor Reynolds.
Mr. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yeah.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of April 6, 2021, I move to appropriate $50,000 from the undesignated fund balance free cash general government account to fund 3558 Fire Department roofs for the design portion of roof replacement.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any additional?
So
comments?
when I first saw this, Mr. President, I thought it was a tremendous amount of money. And then I saw the request for bids go out last week. And I thought there's enough of this that we're probably to the point where between design portions for projects in the city and for clerk of the works projects of ongoing in the city, it's time for a city engineer. So this is budget season, and I'm just planting the seed that we might be able to save some money with a professional on staff to be a facility engineer that could double as a clerk of the work and do this type of design work. However, I request my colleagues, counselors, to appropriate this $50,000 because the roof replacement needs to be done, and government's slow. It'll take us a while to do any alternative method. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Counselor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. And finally, from the docket of February 6, 2021, I move in accord with the Attleboro City Charter, Section 6-3, Paragraph D, to adopt the following resolution to adopt the capital improvement program for fiscal years 2022 through 2026. A resolution for the City of Attleboro Capital Improvement Program fiscal years 2022 to 2026. Whereas the Home Rule Charter, approved by the people of Attleboro in November 1973, requires the submission of a 5-year capital improvement program at least 6 months prior to the last day of each fiscal year. And whereas the city charter calls for a yearly adoption of the resolution of the council, by resolution of the council, at least a 5-year capital improvement program for the city. And whereas the charter calls for a public hearing, which was held by the councils on March 16th, 2021. And whereas our municipal fiscal management reflects a plan to establish a capital improvement line item in the budget of $600,000 to cover the cost of the city's urgent projects. And therefore, the council adopts the capital improvement program for fiscal year 2022 through 2026.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any additional comments, Counselor Conti?
Yes, Mr. President. My fellow councilors, this reflects a continuing effort by the Capital Improvement Committee to take care of the urgent projects in the city through a budgeted process. 3 years ago, we established the fact that we could have a capital improvement line item in the budget. It actually got funded with $500,000, but last year it got pulled out completely. This year, we've agreed, Jeremy and the mayor and I, that and the committee, that requesting $600,000 is a possibility. It's realistic. It should be done, and let's see what happens. So the committee has a plan that if the $600,000 doesn't make it through the budget, we will regroup. We will make a recommendation to the council on what should be funded first of all these projects, and lobby to get that done. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Counselor Cobus?
Just a quick comment. Can we reread the fourth whereas clause? It's different than what I have in my notes here, and I want to make sure I'm comfortable with it.
The fourth whereas is our municipal fiscal management reflects a plan to reestablish a capital improvement line item in the budget of $600,000 to cover the cost of the city's urgent projects. And you're muted, Councilor Cobus.
And I have on here or upon state certification of free cash.
No, that's been removed.
Got it.
The committee removed that on the last meeting.
Any additional questions for Councilor Conti? Councilor Delesio?
Thank you. It's more of a comment. Rick, I'd really like seeing that 600,000 in there. Just an editorial comment. I would like to find some kind of a mechanism where we can have that line item grow over time, because 600,000, to be honest, is a drop in the bucket. And if there's a way that we can continuously grow that over time, it's going to save us a lot of money in the long run. And it might be a little bit of belt tightening in the short term, but you know, when we're letting these projects go and go and go, it's going to cost us more money down the road. Thank you.
Councilor Conti?
Mr. President, I'd like an opportunity to address Councilor Delesio. That Councilor Delesio, it's $2,780,000 citywide with the school department in urgent projects. This $600,000 is a drop in the bucket. But the school department is in the middle of some active programs to get all of their air conditioning grouped together with an outside contractor. And they're looking at getting all of their paving done all at once through the same way. And so those are both bonding issues, or they're certainly contractual issues that are outside of what we need to do right now. So you and I are in complete agreement. And I appreciate that, Councilor Delesio, because this has been a fight to try to get a budget number in the budget every year on a line item, which is the best practice for a city our size. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you, Councilor Delesio, and then Blair.
Just a quick follow-up, and one thing I would add is we talked about this in a budget meeting a couple weeks ago. Ultimately, I'd like to see some semblance of a plan where we start to build to having capital improvement vehicle line items in the budget as well.
Councilor Blair?
In past years, we've used free cash to do some of this. We were told we had $8 million in free cash, yet we're still talking about bonding some of these items that are going to be 500,000, 600,000, whatever. I know Jay mentioned earlier he's going to have a discussion on that free cash when our city auditor comes down. I just can't fathom this bonding for everything when you got $8 million sitting there. It looks like we're over the hump as far as finances through this pandemic. So I would like to, and next week, I think Jay's going to bring that out when Deb comes down, to know where that money is and what it can be used for. I know what it can be used for. We always used it for capital improvements. So I just don't see the need of that sitting around.
Thank you. Councilor Delesio?
Thank you, and I'm sure you don't want to go down the rabbit hole here, President Cooper, with the back and forth during capital improvements about budget, but long and short of it, the $8 million, remember, that's in the reserve fund for transfer. It doesn't go anywhere until we say it goes places. Deb is going to give us a pretty in-depth breakdown. She has the reserve fund for transfer sheet. Just a couple things just to keep in mind. Almost 1.7 million to fund this fiscal year's budget came out of that. 103,000 for the radar, the crosswalks and radar. 64,000 for the fire hybrid truck. 123 for the reval. So we're looking at about $2 million already, not including the 55,000 for the Medicaid agreement that's coming out tonight, some of the things that are in the communication tonight. But Council Blair, thank you for raising that, because I think it is important. And I asked Deb to come down next week just to kind of go through this, because we hear that number 8 million. We have things we want to bond for. And again, there's a reason why we bond. We want to control the bonding. We want to control the debt. But we also have some tough decisions coming, I think, and we don't know what the cherry sheets are going to look like this year. I know that hoping that the Ways and Means budget is a little bit higher than what it looked like it was going to be from the, so, you know, there's a lot that goes into it, but I think that if we can use some of this reserve fund for transfer to fund some of these capital improvement projects, it will put us in a better position long-term, but we control what happens with that $8 million.
I understand that, Jay. Thanks for your input, and hopefully next week we can get some answers that'll make me feel better.
Right.
Thank you.
I'm just going to add, I wouldn't commit to spending any of that $8 million till you hear from the mayor on the current budget situation.
No,
And I'll leave it at that.
I wouldn't either. Thank you for your indulgence.
Any additional questions? Seeing none, Council Conti, did I see a hand? I'm sorry.
No, you did not.
Okay, thank you. A roll call vote will begin with Council Reynolds.
Yes.
You're muted, Steve.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. That concludes the business that the Capital Improvements and City Development Committee has to bring before the council this evening. We look forward to a meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. Council Waterman.
Thank you. From the docket of April 6, 2021, I move to accept the donation of $50 in Stop and Shop gift cards from Laurie Scales to the Veterans Office on behalf of the World Down Syndrome Day, March 21st, 2021.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any additional comments, Council Waterman?
No, it's a generous gift. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yeah.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
And also from the docket of April 6, 2021, I would move to approve the appointment of Aretha Weedbrock Still of Knott Street to fill an expired term on the Disability Commission, term to expire February of 2024.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any additional comments?
No, I'm sure Aretha still will do a fine job. We're very fortunate to have her.
Thank you. Any additional questions from the council? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
And
Motion passes.
that concludes the business of the Personnel, Veterans, and Human Services Committee. I'll call for the next meeting at the next appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Jackson.
Thank you, President Cooper. Reporting for the Public Works Committee from the docket of April 6, 2021. I move to transfer $13,700 from the Water Enterprise Fund Reserve Fund for Transfer account to the Water Enterprise Fund Other Financing Uses account, and further transfer $13,700 from the Water Enterprise Fund Other Financing Uses account to Fund 3338-499000 effluent valves, other financing sources to replace 4 filter effluent valves and controllers at the West Street Water Plant.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank
Motion
you,
is in
Councilor
order.
Delicio. And we did discuss this last week in committee. It is, I mean, basically it's to replace the valves down at the water treatment plant.
Great. Any additional questions for Council Jackson? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Council
Council
Reynolds.
Reynolds. Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yeah.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Mr. Delicio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cooper.
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion
Thank
passes.
you.
Thank you. From the docket of April 6, 2021, I move to appropriate $65,000 from the Water Enterprise Fund retained earnings to fund 3338 effluent valves.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments? Councilor Blair.
To Councilor Jackson, is this a combination, Kate, of the 65 and the 13.7?
Yes, it is. We discussed this last week. Some of the valves have to be replaced that are broken. They have to go in and do a, oh my gosh, just drew a blank in my notes I already brought to City Hall. But yes, it is a combination.
So is this outside labor, inside labor?
This is outside labor.
They're having a company come in and replace those?
Yes, they are.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, a roll call vote is required and we'll begin with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
Is that a yes? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Delicio,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
President Cooper.
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. From the docket of April 6, 2021, I move to transfer $25,000 from the Water Enterprise Fund Reserve Fund for Transfer Account, the Water Enterprise Fund Leak Detection to replenish funds used for unexpected needs from the leak detection account.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any additional questions or comments?
We discussed this last week, but yes, they, at one point, there was a leak that they had to do immediate repairs to, so they're just replenishing the account that they had taken that money from.
Thank you. Any, Councilor Blair.
Hey, was that a water main leak?
No, it wasn't a water main leak, Peter. It was in one of the buildings. From what
You sure it wasn't a water main leak that they had outside people come in to fix?
Not that I'm aware of. I'm sure last week when we discussed this, I don't recall telling you that.
No, I know you didn't. That's why I was asking if that was a possibility.
Well, do you know something I don't? Would you like to tell me?
We had Walsh come in a month ago when we couldn't get our own crew into work to do a repair. And we've had those in the past, I know, and those run anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000, and it doesn't have to come before the council. So I was curious if that was in this money that we're looking for, if that was part of it.
I wish you had asked me that last week, and then I could have gotten you that answer before this week. So you
I didn't mean to
had an answer to the question.
I didn't mean that, Kate, believe me. I just, I knew about this leak, this water main leak,
Then why didn't you mention it last week?
because I didn't think of it, Kate.
Oh,
I told you, I
okay. Then
apologize.
So I
just
guess I
asked-
can't answer the question that you might already have an answer to.
I don't have an answer.
Okay.
If I wouldn't ask you if I had an answer, Kate, believe me.
Okay.
Councilor Delicio.
Thank you. Given the conversation and where it's only a replenishment, would it make sense to hold this in committee until we can find that answer?
I can certainly do that if you want to withdraw your second.
Withdrawn.
Okay. We'll hold that in committee until 2 weeks from now. So moving on.
Moving on, yep.
From the docket of April 6, 2021, I move to appropriate $18,326.60 from the undesignated fund balance free cash general government account to the Public Works small equipment account to purchase a heavy-duty scanner and diagnostic tool for vehicles.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any additional comments?
No, we discussed this last week at great length.
Counselor Blair and then Counselor Kovas.
I just want to explain my vote. I won't be in favor of this because in my experience, this type of equipment, you need a qualified technician to use. And if you don't, it goes in the corner and becomes a dust collector. So I don't think, in my opinion only, I'm not, but I spent 55 years in the automotive trade. And I know what these fancy pieces of equipment are, and they are fancy. And I know their longevity isn't long either. 4 to 5 years from now, you'll be buying another one because they'll tell you it's non-serviceable and they don't make the parts for it anymore, the updates. So I won't be supporting this message, but that's my opinion.
Thank you. Counselor Kovas.
Thank you. I spoke with Mike Tyler briefly about this item, and I had some concerns about the annual cost for it and what exactly we were getting for that. And he was able to answer some of those questions. It mentioned that the annual subscription cost for this would be $26.50 per year, and that's for the cloud-based storage of all the vehicle information that'll get uploaded. And then I had some concerns about, like, is if we're going to be using this for all city vehicles to sort of be able to share it for all the city vehicles, will this meet that need? And he answered yes, but said understandably that Public Works mechanics would be the only ones that really know how to use it initially, but eventually it could be expanded to support all the city vehicles. And so I was a little hesitant based on the $2,600 a year and the initial cost that maybe we hadn't done enough to sort of investigate that this is the best cloud storage and analytics option for city vehicles, but ultimately I'll support it. But I want to express that I was a little bit concerned about sort of the annual cost and sort of adopting this as the Snap-on software and cloud tooling as the sort of the standard for the city. But I'll support it.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Counselor Blair.
Mr. Blair.
No.
Ms. DeSimone.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
Vice President Jackson.
Yes.
Mr. Delissio.
Yes.
Mr. Kovas.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yeah.
Ms. Reynolds.
No.
President Cooper.
Yes.
8 yeas, 2 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. From the docket of April 6, 2021, I move to transfer $4,885 from the Recreation Salary and Wages account to the Recreation Maintenance of Recreational Areas account for repairs to Briggs and Spatcher pools, as well as Haywood Field backstop.
Second.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Discussed last week, they've been having some issues with some of the fencing, the backstop. And as you know, in the mayor's communication tonight, we also have found some other issues with Briggs Pool, but they're going to try and bring that back up to code. And in the mayor's communication, he didn't mention that. What was it called? A key free or Briggs Pool? Keyless? No, what is it called? I forget. You know what that was? I was going to ask.
Level entry.
The level entry that's going into handicapped can get into the pool and the young children.
Oh, okay, thanks. I didn't know what that meant. I have no other comments.
Okay. Seeing none, roll call vote is in order, and we'll begin with Councilor Blair, I believe.
It's actually Reynolds, I believe.
Okay, Councilor
Ms.
Reynolds.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes,
10 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, President Cooper. I have no further business
Before you,
for the Public Works Committee, but I'd like to call for a committee meeting at the appropriate time next week.
thank you. Councilor Jackson, just refer to the memo dated 3/9 from Courtney Winchell to Mayor Haro regarding the reason why there's no money left in the leak detection account.
Okay, I have to go back to City Hall because I take
I'll-
all my backup.
I'll email it to you.
Thank you.
And moving on to Councilor Delissio.
Thank you, President Cooper. Reporting for budget and appropriations. I have several motions to bring forward this evening. Before I do, I just want to thank Council Cobus for covering for me last week. From the docket of April 6, 2021, I entertain a motion to authorize the school department to pay a previous year school invoice of $440 to the City of Attleboro Police.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any additional comments?
As we've been doing, this is when bills are received past June 30th of the fiscal year. We have to get the approval for the department to pay them, and this is for 2 details at the high school.
Great, thank you. Any additional comments or questions? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan, Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes,
10 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. From the docket of April 6, 2021, I entertain a motion to appropriate $55,218.59 from undesignated fund balance, free cash, general government to account school appropriation Medicaid to fund the municipal sharing agreement.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any additional comments?
Briefly, this is to stay in line with the memorandum of agreement from 1999 for the city side to contribute to the school Medicaid program.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Seeing none, a roll call will begin with Councilor Reynolds.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes,
10 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. From the docket of April 6, 2021, I entertain a motion to transfer $12,189 from account Brennan Wamsutta roof repair, other financing uses to account Brennan Wamsutta repairs, other financing sources to close 3412, to close fund 3412. The funds will be used in 3429 for project costs, reducing the amount to be borrowed.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any additional comments?
Yeah, briefly for the next 3, these will be my comments. These are small capital improvements for the school, and the leftover funds are going to be transferred to 3429, and that's for the Brennan Wamsutta roof. This is the capital account that's going to manage and account for the proceeds of the $3.9 million project to repair those roofs. And what it will do is ultimately down the line, reduce the number, the dollar amount which we need to borrow for.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes. Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, President Cooper. From the docket of April 6th, 2021, I entertain a motion to transfer $13,598.25 from account Studley Calwall, other financing uses, to account Brennan Wamsutta repairs, other financing sources, to close Fund 3416. The funds will be used in Fund 3429 for project costs, reducing the amount to be borrowed.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any additional comments?
I have none.
Any additional questions from the council? Roll call vote will begin with Council Reynolds. Steve?
Yes. Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. And finally, from the docket of April 6, 2021, I entertain a motion to transfer $4,414.12 from account AHS Athletic Complex, other financing uses, to account Brennan Wamsutta repairs, other financing sources, to close 3417. The funds will be used in Fund 3429 for project costs, reducing the same amount, reducing the amount to be borrowed.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any additional comments?
I have none.
Any additional questions? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Council Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, President Cooper. That concludes the business for budget and appropriations. Would like to call for a meeting next Tuesday at 6:30, where I have the city auditor coming down.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council Cobus.
Thank you. Reporting for Zoning and Land Use Committee from the docket of April 6, 2021. I move to transfer $3,540 from account Citywide Reserve Fund to transfer to account Planning and Land Use Professional Services to have a Form A plan prepared with legal description to subdivide approximately 4-acre parcel of land at Highland Park.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any additional comments?
We talked about this 2 weeks ago. This is just to pay for the professional services for to create the Form A plan.
Any additional questions or comments? Councilor Conti.
Mr. President, I wish to abstain from this vote.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Seeing none, roll call vote will begin with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
All right. From the docket of February 16th, 2021, I move to approve the following amendments of the revised ordinances. 2-19.9 District Improvement Financing.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any additional comments?
Before we get started, I'd like to move to make an amendment. I move to amend paragraph A and to change the date from adopted March 2nd, 2021 to adopted April 7th, 2021.
Second.
Okay. Motion is in order. Council Cobus.
And this is just to change the adopted date to tomorrow. This is based on a conversation with Catherine Fierick, and just because the initial date in here was based on when we had originally planned to move this through, but we kept it in committee for an extra 2 weeks to have Ms. Fierick come down and talk to us 2 weeks ago. So this is just to adjust based on that.
And it's to tomorrow and not today, since the council's voting on it on the 6th.
We could go either way. I pick tomorrow to give 24 hours in case there's a motion to reconsider. Could go either way.
Okay. Any additional comment? Councilor Delicio, sorry about that.
Or thank you, President Cooper. So my question is kind of along the same lines as yours, President Cooper, but I'm wondering, does it make sense to use the adoption date as Friday after the certificate of vote is signed?
No,
Just
'cause
procedurally, I'm
No.
really asking.
No, I think I think procedurally, it's the date of adoption is the date the council votes on it. What happens after that subsequent full adoption,
Yeah,
right? So there are things that can prevent the adoption, like the reconsideration, Councilor Cobus mentioned, or the mayor not signing the vote, or the veto. Him not signing it wouldn't prevent the adoption, actually, but a veto would.
yeah.
At least delay.
So then in that point, can I make a friendly amendment to change it to the 6th?
Yes, sir.
Second.
Thanks for that explanation. As I said, President Cooper, I just want to make sure we were procedurally in the right vote.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments on the amendment? Great. Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Council Reynolds. And this is on the motion as, this is on the amendment. There'll be another one on the.
Yeah. Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan, Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Mr. Delicio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes. Now to the motion as amended. Any additional comments, Council Cobus?
I think we've discussed this quite a bit in committee, both between the public hearing and then 2 weeks ago in the in committee with Catherine Ferrick. She did a great job just describing this. I think this brings a lot of benefit in incentivizes companies to invest money in the downtown region. So I encourage everybody to support it. We heard Ms. Ferrick talk about how she saw this work in Ohio, and it was effective in bringing some of these in encouraging some of these companies to invest money in the region, the DIF region. So I think it's great for the city, and I encourage everybody to support it.
Great, thank you. Any additional comments? Councilor Conti?
So I'm just jealous of the accomplishments of our Economic Development Director, Ferrick. I wish there was a capital improvement financing plan, and there isn't. So she did a great job finding this program and bringing it to our city, because as a result of it, that transit-oriented district is really going to take off. I support this wholeheartedly, and that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Seeing none, a roll call will begin with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone, yep.
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Delicio,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
And that concludes the business of the Zoning and Land Use Committee, and I call for committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Great, thank you. Councilor Dolan?
Thank you. I have two motions this evening from the docket of April 6, 2021. I move to approve a scrap metal recycler junk dealer license for Polarized New England Company, LLC, DBA Schnitzer Northeast at 136 Bacon Street.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any additional comments, Councilor Dolan?
I have none.
Any questions from the council? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Councilor Reynolds.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Mr. Delicio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of February 16th, 2021, I move to approve the application to waive section 11-15.1 to serve alcoholic beverages or wine on city property for a private party at the zoo requested by Adam Semple.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any additional comments?
I don't have anybody, excuse me, any comments. I just had my committee meeting, so I don't know who was there. If anybody else, I can answer questions if anybody has any.
I don't. Any additional question? Council Delosio.
Actually, not a question. It's more of a comment. Laura, great job with your committee meeting today. You had all the answers, really helped a lot of the questions I had. I think where the zoo has been so impacted by COVID over the last really year plus right now, any sort of outside the box revenue generating idea, I think we should be supporting. Is it perfect? Probably not, because it was the first one, right? But I think that as we continue to go down this path, we have such a great asset in the zoo with such a great space for these sort of events that, kudos to Derek Corsi and Adam Semple for even thinking about it. So I think this is a pretty cool event.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Delosio,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
That's all the business I have for licenses committee, and like to call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time, please.
Great. Thank you. Councilor Reynolds.
Thank you. Reporting for City Property and Claims Committee from the docket of April 6, 2021. I move to transfer $4,520.73 from citywide reserve fund for transfer to citywide copiers to purchase a new copy machine for the treasurer's office.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any additional comments?
I have none.
Thank you. A roll call vote will begin with Councilor Reynolds.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Mr. Delosio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
I move to transfer from the docket of April 6, 2021. I move to transfer $119 from citywide reserve fund for transfer to planning and land use supplies office equipment to purchase an adjustable desk riser.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any additional comments?
I have none.
Thank you. Any comments from the council? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Delosio,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes. On the next one, Councilor Reynolds, if you just read the description, you don't need to read the rest of it if you read it in committee.
I did, and I was gonna do that. So thank you.
Thank you.
From the docket of April 6, 2021, I move to declare the following water department equipment as surplus and available for disposition. There are two things that are in poor condition: a weed eater push mower and a Power American pressure washer. No longer in use is a forward car lift. There are two fair conditioned items: a Jaeger 6-inch pump trailer and a 1966 Army trailer. And there are four items that no longer work: two Radic handheld meter readers and two Trimble Ranger handheld meter readers.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any additional comments?
I do not have any.
Great. Thank you. Any additional questions from the council? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Councilor Reynolds.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Mr. Delosio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cooper.
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
That is all the business the City Property and Plans Committee has this evening, but I would like to call a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. There is, who's the second for ordinances?
Is it me or you, Kate? I don't know.
No, Kathleen is.
I think, so
I am
just
President.
call for a committee meeting next week at the appropriate time.
Right now?
Yep.
Okay, yes. So the ordinances committee, I would like to call, on behalf of the chair of the ordinances committee, I would like to call for a committee meeting next week at the appropriate time.
Great, thank you. And then there's 3 items of new there's no old business. There's 3 items of new business. For the first 2, I would recognize Councilor DeSimone.
Thank you, President Cooper. I'm just resubmitting the amendments that I had originally put forth during the discussion of the fee increases for both the water and wastewater department. I know they're a few years out before these reports would be required, but I just didn't want them to fall off the radar because I think it's important to not let that greater time lapse pass again. Thank you, President Cooper.
Thank you. So just read the motion and we'll.
Thank you, President Cooper.
Thank you.
I move that the following item be referred to the appropriate committee for study and recommendation. Request an amendment to City Ordinance 16-9 suggesting a fee report be submitted every 3 years by the water superintendent with the report to include a recommendation on increasing or decreasing fees charged.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any additional comments? Thank you. I'm just going to make one comment for both of these. Councilor DeSimone, thank you for your patience. I know that we talked about this. We went back and forth about whether to do it as part of the original. I think as we both maybe agreed to in the end, to do it as new business was the cleaner way to do it, given what was currently in the committee for water and wastewater. So I appreciate that. Any additional questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Delicio,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
President Cooper.
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. That matter is referred to the Ordinances, Elections, and Legislative Matters Committee.
All right, President Cooper, moving forward, I move that the following item be referred to the appropriate committee for a study and recommendation. Request an amendment to City Ordinance 16-15, suggesting a fee report be submitted every 3 years by the wastewater superintendent, with the report to include a recommendation on increasing or decreasing fees charged.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any additional comments, Councilor DeSimone?
No, I just reiterate the same.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Councilor Reynolds.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan, Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Mr. Delicio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cooper.
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes. Ordinances, Elections, and Legislative Matters Committee. And next, I will recognize Councilor Reynolds.
Before I read it, or let me read it first and then I'll explain it.
Yep.
I move that the following item be referred to the appropriate committee for study and recommendation. Request an amendment to City Ordinance 1-12 that states the powers and duties of the Attleboro Historical Commission so that gifting and/or disposition of property can be addressed. See 1975 and 1977 votes taken by the City Council.
Second.
Was that Councilor Jackson? That's second?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, motion is in order. Councilor Reynolds.
So what I'd like to just say about this is this came to my attention, geez, I think it was back in November of last year. And going back and forth between myself, the Historical Commission, the mayor, the city attorney. And really, it falls back down. There were votes taken in 1975 and 77, and there's no There's nothing in the ordinances that have powers and duties of the Historical Commission. So there was no place to put it. It never went anywhere. We don't even think that it was put into the newspaper to say that there was a public hearing. So after some communication with President Cooper, we decided we're going to start all over again. We're going to do it new, get it into the ordinances, and then make sure that the items they get into use and the items they decide to discard. Does this make sense to everybody? Am I making some sense?
Yes.
Thank you.
Perfect.
So that we are doing.
Thank you. Any additional questions for Council Reynolds at this time? Thank you. Roll call vote will begin with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes. I'll refer that matter also to the Ordinances, Elections, and Legislative Matters Committee. I guess when you're not here, you get an assignment. Oh.
3.
So I just, very quickly, before I entertain a motion to adjourn, I am considering starting, at least myself, going into the city council chambers starting in August. And will then start to bring counselors back into our meetings starting likely in September. But that's all with a caveat on what the numbers trend toward doing. So just so you're all aware, I will be there, likely be there the meetings in August, and then we can take it from there. With that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
And a roll call vote beginning with Council Reynolds.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes. We are adjourned at 9:01. Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Have a good night, everyone.